Good morning, everybody. You tuned into Crackcore. Thank you very much for being here today. Today is the 15th, Saturday the 15th of July, 2023. Today we're going to be talking about perspective and life experience. I think it's a very important subject. I spoke to somebody the other day that told me that they'd just started going to counselling, and if you're not in the UK, that means you're going to go and see a shrink, a head doctor, a psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, counsellor. Basically, this person said that they'd just been for their first session and that they were thinking about chucking it in and not going to any more. And I shared a bit of my own personal experience with this person in the ways of trying to keep them focused on that path of self-evolution. I mean, not all counsellors are any good, though. It's important to say at this point, not all counsellors are good. Some counsellors, some shrinks, whatever, psychiatrists, they'll mess you up more than what you were before. So you've got to be careful. You've got to pick the right one. But again, it's like everything, isn't it? Not everybody is the same. And maybe that's not to say that the psychiatrist is no good. Perhaps they're just no good for you, or, they're no good for that particular patient. Because, as I said, we're all different. I mean, at this point, it's obvious, isn't it? We're all different. We're all unique in our own personal ways. And not everybody can be treated exactly the same. Whether it comes down to physical medication, spiritual medication, or mental medication, not everybody is treatable in the same ways. I mean, fucking hell. Even, if you listen to anything by Carl Jung, he says exactly the same, and he wouldn't have been the first. If you go back, into antiquity, I'm pretty sure there are doctors everywhere that say, not everybody can be treated in the same ways. It's only today in our modern era, and that's because it's for profit, clearly, in my opinion, that things are just treated across the board. You get various different scales and spectrums, for want of a better word, that people are put into to decide the severity of the case. But the treatment is usually the same. And when I say treatment, what I mean is, the covering up of the symptoms. Because I truly believe that almost all ailments can be treatable. It just comes down to going to the root cause as opposed to just covering up the symptoms. Because most of these things they start from a traumatic experience. Most. Whether it be physical trauma, bump to the head, whether it be spiritual or mental or emotional trauma, that's usually the catalyst, in my opinion. The emotional trauma. That's what causes an awful lot of these problems in people. And rather than deal with the seat of emotional trauma, the little nucleus that started it off, they'd rather just cover up the symptoms with tablets and medication that inhibit the way they feel. Which, in my opinion, is out and out just wrong. It's just wrong. If you really want to help somebody, you've got to find out what it is that's causing the problem. Not just saying, well, here's a tablet. Because when they stop taking those tablets, it's still there, and it's probably going to be worse. Because now it's come back to haunt you. So, there we have it, you know. So this is my point. Not every counsellor or head doctor, or whatever you want to call it, is going to be right for each individual patient. So you've got to find that particular counsellor that you need. Which is why, in my opinion, there needs to be a slightly more intricate process as to how we kind of go through a selection of who we are as patients, so that counsellors with the qualifications and based on their style of counselling and so on, are able to then be allocated certain patients, so that people can have a better experience as they're going through counselling, and therefore have a better chance of being healed as a result. But you see, this is where it leads me to my own personal experience, because I had a counsellor, and she was out and out the best counsellor, at least for me. She was fantastic. From day one, she listened to everything I had to say completely non-judgmentally, and allowed me to focus on how things made me feel. In my opinion, that is the key to being a good counsellor. And if I was to choose that path for myself, if I could go back and I could change what it was that I did with my life, I think I would do that. And I would do it based off my experience with her, because she was fantastic. And, you know, what a saint of a human being. You know, completely unconditional. She was fantastic. And if, like I say, if I had my chance again, I'd do that. Because she was inspirational, at least in that aspect of her life. I mean, obviously that's the only way I knew her. So, for me, I can only really express my own experience. But you see, this is the point. This is my point when it comes down to life experience and perspective. Because we're all given a life experience. Every single thing that happens in your life is your life experience, whether it's other people's your interactions with other people's interactions with other people around you, whether it comes down to your own personal view on, I don't know, what fucking colour the sky is. Christ, you might be colourblind. Every single aspect, whether it's physical, mental or spiritual, of your experience as a human being in this life is yours. Which means, check this out. Let's just say you come across somebody who's fucked in the head and they abuse you in a way that, like, I don't know, like a mental fucking abuse type trauma situation. We've all had that. Let's face it, if you've lived, you've had a partner who's been mentally abusive. Now, that's part their mental abuse, their experience now, their trauma that has brought, because obviously we can't take that away from them. They've clearly had some form of trauma that's caused them to act in that way, that's caused them to treat other people that way. And now that's yours. Now you've interacted with that person, and that trauma is yours based on your experience with them. Now the perspective lands when you accept that this person has had a certain level of trauma in their life, and the way that they've perceived it has allowed them to treat it as a weapon against them, and therefore a weapon against other people. Alright? If you get somebody else now who sees things completely differently, and they take their trauma and they perceive it as a tool for themselves to evolve, well, then they most likely go on to use it as a tool to help other people. And that's the perspective. You either use every single aspect of your life experience as a weapon or a tool. And that is it. But just remember that it's all yours. This whole life, it's yours. The emotions you feel, everything, it's yours. So, based on that, I think it's right to say at this point that a lot of people, and I'm sure anybody watching this would agree with me, that we've all come across somebody in our lives that has said, I feel this way because of them. It's their fault. You know, the fucking blame mentality, the it's their fault mentality. It gets you nowhere. We've all come across somebody like that. We've all heard of it. Perhaps we've even said it ourselves. Christ, maybe you've got to say it in order to realise that that's not the case. I know that I've blamed other people many times in the past. But you see, this is the point. It's not their fault. They are the reason behind why you feel a certain way, but it's not the way that you feel isn't their fault. Because let's face it, the way that you feel is down to you. Your whole life experience is yours. You are the point at which the universe flows from past to present to the future. You know, the future moves back into the past and the present moves ever forward. It's fantastic. And it's all yours. Once you realise that as you sit there right now, your life, this existence, the ever-present moment of now is flowing through you continuously. You are the central point within a one of those sand fucking egg timer things. You are the central point in one of those at which the grains of sand are falling through from the future into the present, out into the past. And it's all yours. You are the universe. That means that you are the universe. You are everything that happens because it's happening now to you as a direct result of you and for you. And absolutely everything, this whole existence, everybody's existence, every single person's choices, every single person's perspective, every single person's trauma and experience and everything else that goes along with that, considering the fact that we're all intertwined through one experience, how it relates to the next person and so on, is all connected. So given that, and you're a part of that, well, it's all affecting you right now, and it's all as a direct result of you being here right now. So that means everything, absolutely everything in the whole universe, considering that everything works off each other, is now being experienced by you in the ever-present moment of now. So what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that? Because that, my friends, is your choice. Are you going to sit there and weaponize it against yourself and potentially therefore move forward weaponizing that against other people? Or are you going to use it as a tool to evolve and to move forward and potentially down the line be an example to help other folks evolve and move forward and elevate themselves as you elevate yourself? I mean, this whole existence, man. You know, you think you're alone. You think that you're alone, that your trauma is gonna kill you. But let's just say this: you're not alone. Everything is connected to you right now. People's experiences that are happening far and wide. You've never met these people, but they are having interactions with other people, which then ripples out and has an effect on other people, which then eventually gets back to you. So if you understand the whole aspect of energy and how people feel and what's happening in the general consensus of fucking life, it's bound to have an effect on everyone and everything. And it does. So you're not alone. Quite simply by the fact that you are here, you are not alone. By the fact that you feel, you are not alone. I mean, your trauma, your emotions mean you're not alone. Because that trauma and those emotions have come from somewhere as a direct result of something or someone. You're not alone. Isn't that fantastic? You know, you are not alone. And, you know, your trauma, the way that you feel, it's there to help you. You know, there's people on Instagram that I've seen that say, you know, you've got to accept the darker side of yourself. You know, your worst fears and your worst nightmares are your greatest helpers. And to some degree, I'd have to say that that's correct. You know, this whole experience is yours. And when you're thinking about how this trauma is getting worse and worse, or perhaps you, I don't know, feel as though if you face it, it'll be the end of you, you know. This is why people turn to drugs and alcohol, they become addicts to try and cope. But just remember this: the body and the brain has a certain self-preservation about it. It's not going to give you anything. It's not going to do anything to itself that would destroy itself. That's something that Andreas Moritz likes to talk about with regards to the physical manifestations of disease. The body's not going to give you something that will kill itself. You have to look at things as a tool, as a way to highlight that which is within yourself that needs attention. So any trauma that you've been through, any trauma that you've got now, any emotional baggage, it's okay to face it. It's okay to face it, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to go and see a counsellor and to feel like crap because of it. It's okay, because it will show you the way out of all of that stuff. It will be the tool, if you allow it to be, that you need to evolve and elevate yourself. But just know at the same time, there is nothing at all that is in there within you that can kill you. There's no emotional trauma that will kill you. People kill themselves because of it, but the emotional trauma itself cannot kill you. So long as you've got the perspective in mind and in your heart and your soul that allows you to see it as a tool instead of a weapon, because again, the most severe weaponization of emotional trauma against the self is suicide. Think about it. You're attacking yourself physically. You're extinguishing your life force. So tell me that's not being weaponized. Of course it is. So long as you've got the presence to accept that you can change your perspective and turn it into a tool as opposed to a weapon, well, then you're on the right path, and you will eventually heal yourself, and you will be stronger for it, and a better, more elevated, evolved human being. And on that note, I'm going to wish love and peace to all things everywhere. Thank you for being here with me today. This is Cragcore striking back. Love and peace. Peace.